Good morning. Lots of changes on the calendar these days. So we have the biggest feast of the Muslims is today, of their two big feasts worldwide. Eid al-Adha, which is the feast of the sacrifice of Ishmael. That's the way the story goes in Islam. So Abraham sacrificed Ishmael. That's what they're relating in their writings. And it's a very big feast. The other one is the one at the end of Ramadan, Eid al-Fitr, and which is also a big feast celebrating a month of fasting. And yet this is bigger. That's interesting, isn't it? And so today, the traditional way would be to celebrate sacrificing an animal, and the family would consume a third of the animal, and the other 2/3 would be given away to the poor and the needy. There's also a big emphasis on reaching out to family members one hasn't seen for a long time, visiting, celebrating together, fostering these bonds. The camping just south of Magdala up there is packed with, I would say, 99% Muslims. I met one guy who is Jewish. He's very Middle Eastern in his appearance, because you have Jewish people who look very European, some who look very American, some who look very Russian. So I didn't realize that, I presumed that he was Arabic speaking and Muslim. And he said no, he and his family were Jewish, and they happened to be on the camping as well. But they're all out there. So I asked a young fellow, how are you going to be celebrating Eid al-Adha? And he said, here on the jet skis. So times change, and also probably challenges, when there are cultures of turning to God and of turning to neighbor, to family, extended family, family seldom seen, and helping the poor. And today we have a big challenge of consumerism, which eats away at those days. And obviously people who can have a nice vacation and take advantage of these moments of festivity, traditionally away from work, that's also something very healthy and good, because there can be other moments when they will do the good for the poor and the needy. But still, it's a big challenge, I think, in our world today, this turning just to self. And anybody who turns to something bigger than self is already doing something very healthy for our world. And today we see we have a couple of readings in the normal daily readings. I wanted to say another thing about calendar. In the Holy Land we have festivities that we celebrate with greater emphasis than are remembered or not remembered at all in other countries. For example, yesterday we had the feast of Saint Elijah the prophet. And today we have the feast of Saint Jeremiah the prophet. And I don't remember having those celebrations before I came here to the Holy Land. And in these two particular cases, there are special readings, obviously, because they figure so prominently in the scriptures. And even Elijah appears at Mount Tabor in the Transfiguration along with Moses. So he had a very big presence in the consciousness of Jesus' disciples and of Jesus himself. And there was a big discussion if Elijah had already come. And Jesus referred to John the Baptist, the spirit of Elijah was upon him, and he fulfilled that role. So, and because of this at the Mass we have those special readings, but I will continue doing the daily readings of the normal course here in the Stroll and Chat, just to have that continuity and to follow as much as possible, except that tomorrow we will have very special readings, because tomorrow, and being in Magdala, we are celebrating Mary Magdalene, the first witness of Jesus risen from the dead. This is her feast day around the world. On our Magdala calendar, we also have a very special celebration on the first Saturday of Easter, the Saturday after Easter Sunday within the octave. And it's good for the local people here, the local Arab Christians, because at this time of the year it's so hot, especially for older people to go outside. It's very burdensome. And right now it's nice and comfortable, but we've been over 40 degrees these days, 40 degrees Celsius. So that's well over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And if you add a little humidity, then it becomes extra heavy for people that have heart issues or breathing issues. It becomes extra burdensome. For that reason, the bishop asked us to have the celebration at Easter time, when the weather is much more pleasant and people can more easily go out and celebrate. Hey, we got this guy. You're on live stream. Good morning. I just heard this noise behind me that was unusual, and there he goes. So the readings are, did I cover all the points with the calendar? I think so. I think I did. So then we're looking at a moment during the exodus of rebellion. The people are in the desert. Well, the exodus is in itself physically complete. They're out of Egypt, but they're desiring to go back. They're complaining so hard, and they're saying, why didn't we stay in Egypt? It was much better there. Not in this desert where there's nothing to eat and enjoy and no break from the sun. And there we have again that obviously physical need of food. But you know, if God is God and He brings us to a certain moment in our lives after so many powerful signs of His presence, the very fact that we live, then this is the issue of faith. To trust, to be able to trust, even when we get the news of a tumor, God forbid, you know, but it happens. And the news of an illness, and the news of approaching bereavement, and the news of our own demise, the news that the doctor says, you know, there's a week left, and none of us know if there's a minute left. How many people walk out of a health checkup at the doctor, say everything is fine, and within a couple of days their funeral is going on. You often hear of these cases. So it's an interesting phenomenon, you know, the fragility of our lives, and the very fact that we live and move and have our being, and it's in His hands. And therefore the gift of faith, and faith is like a muscle. On the one hand, it's given to us, but if we don't use it, it atrophies. And one of the best ways to make sure it doesn't atrophy is to practice it, to exercise it. Yesterday I was dealing with the family, and the girl it turns out that the wife and the daughter play the piano very well. So I said, come on, play a little tune. She said, no, I can't play, I'm out of practice. But actually she played and did a fantastic job. You know, sometimes we're lethargic. We don't want to move. We don't want to stir, but we need to have that continual practice. I find it with walking, with swimming. And the same way with our faith, we need to practice. We need to practice our faith. Practice our faith. And to practice the faith intentionally and consciously. And then when big trials come, we're already there. It's available to us. Our faith is there to carry us through. And without big trials, we don't grow. And when we've accomplished and come through big trials by God's grace, then we've become stronger. You know, when Peter walked on the water, it was an act of faith. Maybe other disciples had the same urge but didn't vocalize it. But Peter did in his spontaneity. Jesus, let me walk with you. And then he was sinking. Okay, we always think about that, poor Peter's sinking, lack of faith, you know. But he did it, and then he cried out, Jesus, save me, I perish. There's a difference between crying out and save me, I perish, and complaining and say, let me go back to where I was. There's no going back. There's no going back, not even to Egypt. There's no going back. We're going forward. Life goes on. We get older. We hopefully learn a little bit along the way. We hopefully, our heart stretches and grows a little bit along the way. There's no going back. And then we can have faith. And even before death, to have, and especially before death, not just even, especially, to be practicing our faith. You know, living for so many years and decades in the community of faith, and then ready for eternity. And, you know, gosh, you know, ready to reap the rewards and the blessings from forever, and to be reluctant about that. How could we be reluctant about that? Well, I find another little busy colony down here at my feet. I actually found the red ones yesterday, but not their place, but I found lots of them. And today I have an appointment with a travel agent at 7:30 a.m. to show them around Magdala. And then I decided to take this route here and be back closer as soon as I finish. But one day hopefully we'll go up and we'll see those red ants. I also found two of the little plants I spoke about yesterday with the tiny red flowers, and they're in bloom. I took a picture. Actually, they're right in front of the big cliff down here in the south, which I can't see now because we're hidden here by this embankment of the road here. But it's up, yeah, you see them there, they're just sticking out now at the very back there. So in front of that cliff, we've still got a couple of the little, the plants with the tiny red flowers are still in bloom there. So people, I think we've done, there was one other very important thing is we're here by the lake and watching these boats which are recreational, but they're not the fishing boats, and lots of noisy jet skis out there. But today we have the parable of the sower and the seed in Matthew chapter 13. We're just starting there. It's a chapter chock full of parables, very inspirational. And the sower and the seed parable is the only one explicitly given from the boat. And that's the reading of many. And it's a very interesting parable because it addresses the type of soil, and some seed fell on the pathway, and others fell among the bushes and the thorns, and others fell on good soil and gave a lot of fruit. Some fell on rocky ground. So to have an open heart for God is the sower. He's sowing the seed. It's a very also common image in the Old Testament. God is sowing. He's always sowing in our lives. He's always bringing us to another step, another point. People, I think we'll say goodbye. God bless you. Wonderful having you today. See you later, alligators. This is a nice spot here.